morning, Dr. Anthony. Good
Yes,
afternoon.
very good morning here in
Good
Saudi.
morning. Good morning, sir.
Okay.
Good morning from my side as well, Dr. Anthony and Professor Judson. Hope you
Yes,
will be
thank
fine and
you,
okay.
Dr. Faisal. Thank you.
It's nice to see you here, sir.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello, Dr. Azim.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, sir.
Myself, Professor Bhaumik. Yeah.
Good morning, Faisal sir.
Good morning.
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 Faisal sir. Good
Good
morning,
morning. Good morning, sir. Dr. Kishore, how are you?
sir. Fine,
And
fine.
good morning to Sir Dr. Kokab Azim
Yeah.
and Dr. Gudarshan as well.
Yeah.
Nice to
Thank
see
you.
all of you here, sir.
Yeah. Good morning. Yeah. কিশোর
Yes. হ্যাঁ স্যার বলুন।
বলছি যে আমি স্ক্রিনটা একবার শেয়ার করে দেখছি, তুমি দেখো তো যাচ্ছে কিনা, একবার হচ্ছে কিনা দেখা, টেস্ট করে রাখছি।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা
দেখছি।
May I request Santos sir, please? Sir, may I audible?
Yes,
My
sir. Yes,
Sir,
sir.
please make Bhaumik sir as a co-host. He wants to share his screen and just for checking purpose.
Yes, sir. Professor Bomi can share his screen already, sir.
Okay, let me see.
Yes, sir.
My screen is shared.
Yes, sir. We can see your screen, sir.
Okay, then it's okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Sir Vince.
Yes, sir. Start na tayo.
Yes, sir. Please, you can share our screen, our PowerPoint, so that we could start. Thank you, sir.
Ako yung magsa-screen, sir.
Yes,
Share
sir.
screen.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
sir. Yung sinend mo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Mishari. Yeah, can you hear me? Pardon?
Sir Vince? Sir Vince?
Yes, sir. Sir,
Let me be the one to share screen
share.
so that
Yes, sir.
for the videos.
For the video.
Okay, yes, yes. For a while, for a while. Hello? Hello, Sir Vince. We can start.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's International Conference on Sports Biomechanics, organized by the International Association of Physical Education and Sports in cooperation with the International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education in Iron Games in World Strength Lifting Federation, entitled International Conference on Sports Biomechanics with the theme Applying Biomechanics for the Betterment
Hello,
of
sir.
Sports.
We can start.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's International Conference on Sports Biomechanics, organized by the International Association of Physical Education and Sports in cooperation with the International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education in Iron Games in World Strength Lifting Federation, entitled International Conference on Sports Biomechanics with the theme Applying Biomechanics for the Betterment
Hello,
of
sir.
Sports.
We can
Hello,
start.
sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's International Conference on Sports Biomechanics, organized by the International Association of Physical Education and Sports in cooperation with the International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education in Iron Games in World Strength Lifting Federation, entitled International Conference on Sports Biomechanics with the theme Applying Biomechanics for the Betterment
Hello,
of
sir.
Sports.
We can
Hello,
start.
sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Umuulit-ulit siya, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's International Conference on Sports Biomechanics, organized by the International Association of Physical Education and Sports in cooperation with the International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education in Iron Games in World Strength Lifting Federation, entitled International Conference
Hello.
on
For a
Sports
while. For a while.
Biomechanics with the theme Applying Biomechanics for the Betterment
Hello,
of
sir.
Sports.
We can
Hello,
start.
sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Umuulit-ulit siya, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's International Conference.
Kishore, I have joined.
Sir, Sir Vince, please.
Yes, sir.
Very good morning, Dr. Upasap.
Good morning. Good morning. Hello, Mr. Varghese. How are you?
Oh, fine, sir.
I will reshare the screen
After a
again,
long
sir.
time.
Yes, sir.
Very, very long time.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Sir Vince.
Ready na? Are we
Yes,
ready?
sir. Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's International Conference on Sports Biomechanics, organized by the International Association of Physical Education and Sports in cooperation with the International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education in Iron Games and World Strength Lifting Federation, entitled International Conference on Sports Biomechanics with the theme Applying Biomechanics for the Betterment of Sports. International Association for Physical Education and Sports, founded in Thailand in the year 2009 and registered in Thailand and Philippines with the tagline, "We shape the world of physical education and sports." My name is Vince Rabang, your virtual MC this afternoon. Just to make sure that you can hear me, I would like you to type 1 in your chat box.
You are
Thank
audible.
you.
You are audible.
Yes.
Right.
But before we go further, I'd like to go over a few things. First, please mute your microphone. It is your choice if you will turn on or turn off your camera up to the end. All your questions and clarification will be entertained after the talk of each speaker. It will be done through chat box or by asking it. Your microphone will be turned on by your moderator. Of course, the golden rule, Treat everyone how you would like to be treated. Have fun and always keep an open mind. This is not including 100% hands-on activity due to time constraint. Now, to formally open, let us begin with a prayer, followed by the singing of the ancient and Philippine national anthem.
ธงชาติและเพลงชาติไทยเป็นสัญลักษณ์ของความเป็นไทยเราจงร่วมใจยืนตรงเคารพธงชาติด้วยความภาคภูมิใจในเอกราชและความเสียสละของบรรพบุรุษไทย
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Now, let us all hear the inaugural speech of Dr. Koka Bazim, President of the International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education in our Games, also the Vice President of the World Strength Lifting Federation, followed by the introductory address of Professor Darwin Ofrin, Director of Sports Development Office of the Laguna State Polytechnic University System.
I'm audible. Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Good morning, everybody. At the outset, I'd like to thank the organizing committee for inviting me for the inaugural speech in this international conference on sports biomechanics. This is an honor for me to be part of this conference and along with all eminent personalities. Dr. Jefferson Santos, the dynamic organizing secretary of this event, Professor Darwin Ofrin, the chief guest of this conference and keynote address by Professor Dr. Arun Kumar Upalji, eminent speaker, Professor Sudarshan Bomik, Dr. Vishwanath Sundar, Dr. Pedro, and concluding speech by Dr. Kishore, and vote of thanks by Mr. Mark Anthony and my friend, the moderator of this event, scientific session, Dr. Barkesi Anthony. Dear friends, as we know, sports never ends. Maybe it was pandemic or normal days. Sport is a universal language. Biomechanics is a tool that can be used in sports medicine to identify forces and mechanical energy that causes energy. Biomechanics helps to understand how injuries originate, how to avoid them during sports performance. Furthermore, to identify exercise suitable for injury prevention and rehabilitation. Key principles of biomechanics, which important as objective, are force motion, range of motion, inertia, force time, stability, maximum effort, linear motion, and angular motion. Earlier, a lot of research has been done for the betterment of sports performance, and still a lot of important issues has to be addressed. Still we are searching, still a lot of federations, they are doing a lot of conferences. A champion to act as a role model and bring sport within the reach of everyone. Wishing a grand success of this event. Be safe and healthy, love you all, and have a nice day. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity for this conference. Thank you. Over to Dr. Jefferson Santos. Dr. Jefferson.
Hello
Vince?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
First of all, I would like to acknowledge and congratulate the people and talented person behind this international webinar, to the official and members of the International Association on Physical Education and Sports, headed by the very dynamic President, Dr. Jewelson Santos. Thank you very much, Dr. Jewelson, for inviting me to this historical and fruitful event. Also, I would like to congratulate the officials and members of the International Federation for Fitness, Health and Physical Education and Iron Games. Likewise, my congratulations to the World Strength Lifting Federation, headed by the President, Dr. Kaukab Azim, to Dr. Arum Kumar Upal, the ex-Vice Chancellor of Jiwaji University and Head Dean of Lakshmibai National Institute of Physical Education, to our esteemed resource speaker, Professor Sudarham Bhaumik of the Department of Physical Education and Sports Science, Jasor University of Science and Technology, to Dr. Biswanath Sundar, the Senior Biomechanics, National Institute of Sports Malaysia, and the founder of the Sports Science Virtual Laboratory, to Dr. Pedro Morauco, Associate Professor of Polytechnic of Leiria, and the Director of the Master Degree in Exercise Prescription and Health Promotion, to Dr. Kishore Mukhopadhyay, the Associate Professor in Physical Education, Union Christian Training College, Berhampur, to Mr. Mark Anthony Dalipe, Instructor of Catanduanes State University, to our moderator, Dr. Varghese C. Anthony, Faculty Member, King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals, to my colleagues in Physical Education and Sports, coaches, trainers, officials, faculty, and student athletes, welcome to the International Conference on Sports Biomechanics with the theme, Applying Biomechanics for Betterment of Sports. At this moment, we are very fortunate that our esteemed resource speaker will share to us their expertise regarding the importance, the principles, and the components of sports biomechanics. We, as PE teachers, sports coaches, trainers, will be the great benefactors of this webinar. We will gain our knowledge and skills on how can we be able to minimize injury and improves the performance of our student athletes. After this webinar, I strongly believe we can now provide a genuinely accessible and comprehensive guidelines to all of the biomechanic topics concerned in sports development plans and programs, suited to the needs of our student athletes. Again, thank you and God bless everyone.
Thank you, sirs. In this juncture, may I call in Dr. Chiwason Santos, President of the International Association of Physical Education and Sports Incorporated, followed by the keynote address of Professor and Dr. Arun Kumar Upal, former Vice Chancellor of Jiwaji University, Galwar, and head of the Lakshmibai National Institute of Physical Education.
Hello, Sir Vince. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So good afternoon, everyone who are virtually present on this international conference on sports biomechanics.
Nawala kayo, sir.
Again, good afternoon, everyone who are virtually present on this international conference on sports biomechanics. I would like to acknowledge the following dignitaries that give way to this momentous event. To Dr. Kaukab Azim, the President of International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education and Iron Games, and the Vice President of the World Strength Lifting Federation. To Professor Darwin Afrin, the Director of the Sports Development Office of the Laguna State Polytechnic University System. To Professor Arun Kumar Opal, the former Vice Chancellor of Jiwaji University, Gwalior, and head of the Lakshmibai National Institute of Physical Education. Mostly to Dr. Kishore Mukhopadhyay, Associate Professor, Department of Physical Education, Union Christian Training College, and a member of the International Advisory Board of IPES. To the guest speakers and to the moderators, especially to the resource speakers who will be properly introduced later, to the members of the organization and the virtual participants, a pleasant afternoon to each and every one of you. As we know, biomechanics in sports incorporates a detailed analysis of sports movements in order to minimize the risk of injury and improve sports performance. Sports and exercise biomechanics encompasses the area of science concerned with the analysis of the mechanics of human movement. I hope with this endeavor, every participant would gain benefit on the knowledge that would be shared by our resource speaker. I would like to thank the organizing committee of the three organization, IAPS and the International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education and Iron Games, and the World Strength Lifting Federation for this wonderful collaboration. Once again, good afternoon and have a great day. Sir Vince?
Yes, sir. May I call in Dr. Arun Kumar Upal for his keynote address.
Good morning to everyone. Dr. Azim, Dr. Darwin, Dr. Varghese, Dr. Jewelson, Dr. Faisal, Dr. Sudarshan Bhaumik, Dr. Vincent, Dr. Sundar, and Dr. Kishore Mukhopadhyay. I hope I have practically named everyone. Let me first of all thank you very much for having invited me to be the chief guest for today's webinar. My dear participants, if somebody has to give a very simple definition of biomechanics, well, we can say that it's a science concerned with internal and external forces acting on the human body and the effects produced by these forces. Over the years, sports biomechanics has become a very, very significant subject and has played a very, very important role in enhancing the skill proficiency of the sports person, and also has played a very important role in reducing injuries, in the treatment of some of the important injuries which have kept sports persons away from the sports field for quite some time. Now, if I sum up the benefits of sports biomechanics in nutshell, what we will say, biomechanics helps in the improvement of sports techniques, improvement of old techniques and development of new techniques. Both these benefits are provided by sports biomechanics. Then improvement of sports equipment and facilities. The synthetic surfaces on which different sports are being played, it is a very significant contribution of biomechanics. as per my knowledge, there are only two sports left. One is cricket and second is tennis, where synthetic surfaces have not been used so far. Otherwise, practically in every sport, the synthetic surfaces are being used. And then personal equipment of sports persons, protective equipment which prevents them from injuries. Today we have aerodynamic balls, we have aerodynamic discuses, we have aerodynamic javelins, and also technical equipments of individuals which are used for taking measurements. And then also sports facilities like artificial turfs, instruments for taking measurements when athletic events are performed, and then sophisticated stopwatches, electronic stopwatches, which have now been created. Sports biomechanics have played a very significant role. Now, development of methods of analysis, development of cinematography, videography, dynamography, they have played a very significant role in evaluation system of sports persons. Then improvement of sports training process is a very great contribution of sports biomechanics. Teaching correct movement pattern, locating faults in execution, identifying causes of faults, suggesting appropriate corrections, standardizing exercises, designing training equipments, selecting deficiencies in physical and motor fitness, and introducing new training methods. In all these processes, sports biomechanics has made a very significant contribution. Of course, there are other sports sciences also which have done a great contribution for enhancing performance in sports. But then, if I have to list two very significant contributions of biomechanics, one is improvement of techniques, developing new technical models, and also prevention and treatment of injuries of sports persons. These two things have become very, very special as far as the contributions of sports biomechanics is concerned. I would like to congratulate the organizers for inviting me for this webinar, and I convey my best wishes for the success of this webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Dr. Santos and Dr. Arun Kumar Upal. At this moment, may I call in Dr. Marquis Anthony to introduce our speakers. Sir?
Okay, very, very good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, very good morning, good afternoon in some part of the world to all the participants attending this international conference on sports biomechanics organized by International Association of Physical Education and Sports, Federation with International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education and Iron Games, and World Strength Lifting Federation. I am Dr. Varghese C. Anthony, moderator of this session from King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals, Saudi Arabia. Welcome you all for this technical session. In this technical session, we have today three eminent speakers. One, Dr. Professor Sudarshan Bhaumik, Dr. Vishwanath Sundar, and Dr. Pedro Moroso. I welcome you all, sir. I am sure it will be a fruitful and knowledgeable session to all the delegates attending this conference. All are welcome to ask questions after the presentation or may write your queries in the chat box. I will forward these questions to the speaker. Today, the first speaker, Professor Sudarshan Bhaumik, presently working in the Department of Physical Education and Sports Science, Jashore University of Science and Technology, Bangladesh. He has a vast experience of teaching biomechanical principles in sports, also conducted some research in biomechanical analysis of walking, and presented many research papers in the international conference and published number of articles in reputed journals. Now I invite Professor Sudarshan Bhaumik for his presentation. Over to you, sir. Professor Sudarshan Bhaumik.
Hello, Dr. Anthony. We are admitting him on the meeting room for a moment, sir. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Should I start?
Yes, sir.
My screen has been shared?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Yep.
Oh. Oh, that is the problem every time I face. I do not know. Hey, Tutai. I what today? Yeah, screen sharing.
Yes, sir. Now it's visible.
Visible, okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Dr. Azim, Dr. Santosh, Dr. Afrin, my respected sir, Dr. A.K. Upal, members of the advisory board, conference representative, learned speakers of the conference moderator, and attending delegates. I convey my regards and best wishes to you all. Before going for my lecture topic today, I would like to extend my thanks to the think tank of the organizing committee for selecting such an area for international conference, because this area is a very technical one, and generally this type of subject is not actually selected for this type of conference, and that is why I must extend my thanks to the organizer for selecting this type of technical, you can say, subject area. Anyhow, the theme of this seminar is applying biomechanics for betterment of sports, and as a biomechanist, I will go for very technical aspect today, and my lecture topic will be the biomechanical analysis. As has been mentioned by Dr. Santosh, that yes, biomechanical analysis is one of the tasks that sports biomechanics does for improvement of performance, and I will go for that particular you can say area of analysis, not only theoretically but also with some practical examples. Now let us begin with the fact that what is biomechanical analysis of sports technique? What do you mean by biomechanical analysis? So at first we should start with the fact that analysis is a process of separation of component parts of a structural whole. You see, every structural whole, whether it is a movement structure or it is, even if it is a simple English sentence, it has got some parts. And if we divide these parts, meaningful parts from the structural whole, then this process becomes this analysis. This is just opposite of synthesis, which is the aggregation of the parts, and analysis is just the separation of the parts. Now, if this is analysis, then movement analysis should be understood as a process of the separation of meaningful parts of a, you can say, movement, complex movement, complex movement that is used in the field of games and sports specifically. So that is movement analysis. And when we talk about biomechanical analysis of sports movements or sports skills, then it becomes the process of separation of the, you can say, simple movement units from a complex movement structure used in sports and games. Generally, all sports and games techniques are formed by addition of simple movements. Say, for example, in football, there are simple movements like running, kicking, or heading, that means hitting, passing, all these things. These are simple movements, and these are formed together to develop a skill or technique. Similarly, say, for example, if we go for some throws or some jump, then we will see also there are some simple movements or fundamental movements, we generally call it, and we add together these movements to form the complex structure of the movement. So this is the biomechanics, or this is the analysis of the movement skill or movement, you can say, techniques used in the field of games and sports. That is what we will try to do in this particular lecture. Now, why do we go for biomechanical analysis of movements? What type of advantage it provides to us? The importance of biomechanical analysis is it helps to understand the relation between parts and whole. If the whole is formed by adding the parts or by combining the parts, and if these parts, each of these parts has got some contribution to make for the total purpose of the, you can say, technique, then we have to understand each and every part, their nature and their contribution. This is the main thing. So for that purpose, we are to divide the total structure into, you can say, component parts, and we have to develop each and every part, so that the total movement, you can say, performance can be improved. So that is the main area. And other thing is, if some fault is committed by some performer, then that fault lies in a particular part of the total, you can say, performance. So if we divide the component parts and you can say analyze the parts, then it will be easy for us to identify the fault more accurately. So identification of faults become very easy, and you can say to understand the relation and their contribution of these parts to the whole, you can say, structure of movement, that becomes easy for us to understand. For these purposes, we generally go for biomechanical analysis. And now we will try to understand what type of analysis we will use in the field of sports biomechanics. Generally, there are two types of analysis we use. One is qualitative analysis, other is quantitative analysis. This qualitative analysis means the analysis of the quality. What is quality? Quality means the magnitude expressed in terms of some quality. That means greater, smaller, higher, shorter, faster, slower, in this way, not in quantitative, you can say, score like that. So that is quality. So this is a very simple method, and it is used generally by teachers and coaches when they remain present on the field and observe the performance of the, you can say, performer, of their students. They see, observing from, you can say, with the help of their experience, they can find out how far they are doing right and what are the things they are doing wrong. All these things they can find out, but they are not very objective. Actually, they cannot, you can say, quantify that thing. They will just express their views in terms of quality. So it does not require expensive gadgets, and it does not require much professional expertise as a biomechanist. So simple teachers, physical education teachers and coaches also can go for this type of analysis. And it provides only qualitative information, that much. On the other hand, if we go for the quantitative analysis, we will see that this is a complex process. A lot of, you can say, sophisticated gadgets should be used for this. And the person who will go for quantitative analysis requires professional expertise, knowledge of both aspects. One is the mechanics aspect and other is the movement which he is going to analyze, that knowledge of the movement also. You see, in many time we see very high level academician, they go for quantitative analysis of biomechanical, you can say some sports techniques. Sometimes they face problem because lack of knowledge of the particular, you can say, uh, technique itself. Say if I want to go for analyzing a high jump, so I should know what are the purpose of high jump, what type of movement that are being used, and all these things I should have some sort of idea. If I do not have, then with the help of only mechanics or with the help of this academics, it will be difficult for us. The other side is also sometimes we see that I am very good in, you can say, practical activity, but I do not have that much specialization in, you can say, biomechanics. That time also, or this mechanics part, that time also I may have problem, because analysis should be done, movement should be done on the basis of laws and principles of mechanics, because all movements are guided by mechanical principles. Movement without mechanics, it is not possible. This is the golden rule of mechanics. Every movement is based under some mechanical laws and principles. So this is professional expertise is required, and quantitative analysis provides quantitative information about movement parameter. If it is distance covered, how much distance he is covering. If he is developing, or you can say completing a race with some speed, what was the speed? What was the acceleration? All these things, actual measurement, you can say he can provide. That is why it is quantitative analysis. Actually, performance is expressed in terms of quantity, not in quality. So that is why it is more important. And today we will go for quantitative aspect, quantitative analysis. Okay, let us go for quantitative analysis. Again, if it is quantitative analysis, then it may be of two types again. One for kinematic analysis, other is for kinetic analysis. What is kinematic analysis? Now, movement has got two aspects. One, descriptive aspects, how far I am moving, how long I am moving, and with which speed I am moving, whether it is a uniform motion or it was with changing motion. This type of, you can say, question may arise. So when I use some parameter to describe my movement, that they are called the kinematic aspect or kinematic aspect. So kinematic analysis means the analysis of the kinematic parameters. What are the kinematic parameters? Kinematic parameters are speed, velocity, acceleration, or before that it is simply distance, displacement, and of course the time. So we can get this distance time, displacement time, speed time, velocity time, even acceleration time information. This is kinematic, or kinematic parameters, or kinematic analysis will provide that this type of parameters or information about all these things. And for this we will use generally videography. Nowadays, cinematography, of course, as Dr. Upal has mentioned. Yes, cinematography nowadays, it has become more expensive. That is why we go for videography. But more accurate result is obtained through cinematography, of course, high frequency cinematography, and goniography in case of angular motion and other things. And for recording of movement, high frequency cameras should be used, and analysis of this recorded movement should be done by using some software, movement analysis software. This is the, you can say, chain of action to be taken for kinematic analysis. On the other hand, kinetic analysis means, kinetic is the branch of mechanics that deals with the, you can say, cause of motion. You see, cause of motion is force. It is for you can say linear motion. For angular motion, it is say torque. So torque, force, inertia, momentum, impulse, work power energy, all these things are related directly with the movement executed. So all these things, when we will go for analysis, that will be kinetic analysis. And for kinetic analysis, we generally go for force platform, that is dynamography. We use this dynamography and force platform, and recording of information is done by you can say in form of video dynamogram, and we analyze this dynamogram by using software maybe, or even by manual method also we can go for measurement also. So that is why we will go for quantitative analysis, and today we will go for kinematic analysis, not for kinetic analysis. We will go with an example for kinematic analysis. Let us go for that. Now, general scheme of kinematic analysis. You see, general scheme means the scheme which will be followed for each and every movement. As we know that the sports movements are different for different sports. So to develop general scheme for analysis is not very good thing. But in spite of that, it is observed that there are certain phases that are compulsory, that are seen for every movement or every execution, So that is why general scheme of kinematic analysis, it considers that there are three phases for execution of each and every sports technique or sports movements. And these phases are preparatory phase, main phase, and follow-through phase. This preparatory phase is done before main phase, and it is done for making main phase more effective. And main phase is done for the purpose, main purpose of the technique, and follow-through is done after main phase. Sometimes we think that when the main phase has been completed, what is the need of follow-through phase? But it should be understood that follow-through phase is essential for mainly two reasons. One, it helps us to avoid injury, because if we suddenly stop our movement, vigorous movement, just at the you can say time of completion of the activity, then muscle will suddenly stop their motion, and there is possibility to get injured. So that is one thing. And secondly, if we think this thing from point of mechanics, we will see that at the time of hitting say for example, we are kicking a football. So at the time of kicking a football, if we stop there, then this stopping should be initiated much before that. And if it is initiated, stopping movement, that means gradually you are reducing your action, and when you are applying your force at the time of hitting, that is not maximum. So this indicates that without follow through, the main execution also will not be very much effective. And we should understand that follow through is a natural action, natural process. So it should be done. So there are three main phases, or there are three phases that are for each and every activity, and we will analyze these three phases in some selected movement today. We will see these things. Now, for selection of analysis purpose today, we have selected this particular action, that is kinematic analysis. We will go for kinematic analysis of a running broad jump. Now, this kinematic analysis of a running broad jump, as we have mentioned, that analysis means dividing the total action into parts. So we will be dividing this total action of running broad jump into phases. And these phases are: number one, approach run, takeoff, flight, and landing. Each and every broad jump, running broad jump or long jump, has got these phases. And these phases we will see. Now let us go to see some demonstration. So there will be some jump, actual jump, and you will see the different phases. So she is taking approach run now. Now it is take off.
Sorry, sir, we can't see the video.
Landing. So
Excuse me,
this is
sir.
a complete jump, and this is approach, take off, flight, and landing.
Can you hear me, sir, Dr. Sudarshan?
Yeah.
We cannot see the video.
You cannot see the video?
Yeah, we can see. No, we can't see.
Are Baba, then what should I do? Actually, my screen has been shared, but you cannot see.
Yeah, we can see only that emblem that you are here, URL, and in one.
I think then it is more technical thing, are? Then what should I do?
I think.
Okay, then I should not go for this.
It looks like that is a HTML. It is not a
Only
video.
this thing you can see.
Yeah, I can see only like a
this
globe.
thing, this one.
It's a globe, yeah.
Acha. Then I think I cannot share this thing. I do not know why, because it is linked to it. You can say
Because
internet.
it is not a video. It is not a video. It is only HTML. It is a video. Yeah.
So I cannot do that, na?
Yeah,
okay. Let us proceed without this thing. What can? Okay, let us see the. Let us go with our discussion. See, a running long jump or running broad jump has got 4 phases. Actually, we take approach run, maybe 40 to 50 meters, and this is for preparing ourselves for better takeoff. And takeoff is we consider takeoff is the main phase of running broad jump, where the decision or the fate of the jump is determined. And this takeoff, takeoff is the second phase. And after takeoff, we lift our body up and fly in air for, you can say, in jump, for jumping distance. And that is the area or the distance we cover that becomes the performance of the jump. That is how running broad jump activity we perform. Now, if we see that running broad jump, then these 4 phases we cannot go for analysis because it will take much time. I have decided to go only for this. Also you can see, I think you cannot see. Let us see whether you can see.
No, sir.
Can you see this thing?
You just open.
Yeah, can you see?
No.
Can you see it?
No.
You cannot see?
No, sir.
Okay, then stop it. Okay, stop it. Okay, stop it. Baba re. Now I should stop it. Okay. Now you can say we have already mentioned that the running broad jump has got 4 phases, and of these 4 phases we will take up only the takeoff action, because all these phases we cannot go for analysis because that will take much more time. So takeoff action, if we can you see this thing? Let me see whether can you see this? Hello?
Yes, sir. We can see the picture, sir.
Okay, good.
Yes,
now this takeoff action, if we divide, then it has also got some phases. The first phase is called the touchdown phase, where the takeoff foot is planted on the takeoff board. Now you see, this is the position of touchdown, where you see the touchdown foot or the takeoff foot is planted about 40 to 50 meters ahead of body's gravity line. This body's center of gravity lies behind of the foot planted. So this is the first phase, and therefrom you can say the foot that has been planted has been stopped because it is with the ground. But due to motion, this inertia of motion, the body's center of gravity will move in forward direction. And the second phase of takeoff will result. This is the
Oh, yeah, be there, okay.
absorption phase or amortization phase. In absorption phase, this takeoff, you see, this angle becomes about, say, about 125, 130 degrees. Okay, and the center of gravity comes just on the takeoff foot, and the body, you can say arms, it comes very nearer to the body. At the, you can say previous slide, if we see, you can say previous slide, if we see this here, you see arms were behind, one was behind, one was in front. But with the movement of the body, second phase, that is amortization phase, this arm has come here, that is nearer to the body. So these are the changes. And the body's center of gravity has been lowered because this is the preparation for active stretching that will take place in the next phase, that is the third phase. So generally, takeoff action, it takes about 0.1 to 0.134 seconds like that for world-class performer. And up to this phase, that means from touchdown phase to amortization phase, it takes about 0.8 second, 0.08 second. And after that, from 0.08 to 0.12, this part will be for the active stretching or active takeoff phase. That is the third phase. You see, that is the third phase. Here you see all these joints, this ankle joint, knee joint, and the hip joint, they has been fully extended. One arm has come here, one arm has come backside, you can say there, back up, and one front up. That is how it is the complete stretching for takeoff. So the first one, this was touchdown phase, this is preparatory phase, and this is the action phase. This is taking actual thing. Now, in this takeoff, the main, you can say, action is done by the leg muscle, this extensor, this quadriceps group of quadriceps muscles here. They are taking your body up by, you can say, contraction. Now, main thing is, now for their, you can say, vigorous extension, what have been done is, you see, putting pressure on them by lowering center of gravity. And this thing is very much technical in nature from the point of biomechanics. Now, if we can understand these three parts, that is touchdown part, absorption part, or amortization part, or active takeoff part, then we will go for some practical analysis purpose. Because I was just telling you that main work is done by the leg muscles, but we will not go for analysis much for the leg muscles. We will take a very minute part of this total action.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, please look at the time also. You have maybe 5 minutes more. Thank you.
Oh, 5 minutes more. Achha, okay, then I will go first. Then, okay, then if we go for here, you see, this is the takeoff action. We have seen here touchdown. You can say this is touchdown phase, this is amortization phase, this is active takeoff phase, and this is the action for the long jump. Here we see long jump. In long jump, this arm action is up to here, and for here, this is for comparison. Actually, I have brought here, this is the high jump technique. Arm goes very high because we need body to be lifted up by using the arm movement. So now we will go for analysis only the arm movement, action of arm movement, and for that I have come with some, you can say, mathematical model here. You see, two arm we have got, they move in opposite direction. This is, say, for example, left arm, this is right arm. At the time of takeoff, say, left arm remains, say, for example, at the back top, and it remains on the front top. So these are moved from back to front, and these are moved from front to back. So they have got horizontal movement, and this has got horizontal movement in opposite direction. So they nullify each other, and that is why the horizontal movement of the arms, they are not very important in the sense that they help for, you can say, maintaining balance, or in case of you can say providing some sort of rotation sometimes in the case of high jump. But main thing is, you can say, downward movement. You see, it movements downward from back top to middle portion, and here also it from front top to down portion. They both move in same direction, that is downward. And from, you can say, mid portion, this position to this arm moves backward, but in upward direction. Here also it moves upward direction. That means both arms had got two component of movement. One is horizontal component, one vertical component. Vertical component, both the arms remains in same direction. They move simultaneously in downward and simultaneously in upward direction. That is very unique, and that has got a lot of contribution. Not much research have been so far completed in this particular area. And let us try to understand what this can be, how this can help us in our jump section. Okay, effect of horizontal component to maintain balance running or long jumping, or initiate rotation in high jump. But effect of vertical component, if vertical component means downward movement increases loading force. As we have already seen, that after touchdown, loading takes place on the extensor muscle of the leg. That is very important. Loading, that means pressure will be more on the quadriceps group of the muscle of the takeoff foot, and this loading increases with the downward movement of the, you can say, arm. And upward movement decreases the loading from the extensor muscle. And when they go up, that time both are one from you can say middle portion to upward, other from middle portion to backward. That way, when they go up, say that time they reduce the pressure, so that the extensor muscle can give more pressure, or you can say can have some sort of advantage in thrusting up the total body in upward direction. So that is how it is very helpful. These are the two, you can say, important contribution. Third, transfer of momentum, because both movement, you can say, arms are moving, they have got some weight. So M into V, both of them have got some momentum, they can transfer that thing. The condition is they should not be allowed to go up like that. They should be stop at a particular point like this. From here, stop at a particular point. So that is how it can be transfer of momentum from you can say lower to upward direction. That is why the value transfer of momentum may increase the total body, you can say, velocity by 1.26 meter per second. That is also have been reported or has been seen. Now next, upward shifting of body center of gravity. We know center of gravity's position depend on the mass distribution of the body. We have got our center of gravity just behind our navel region at the normal standing position. But when we take our arms up, body center of gravity also moves up. So that is how, if we move both arms very fast, then center of gravity's position also move in upward direction, and that will also help the you can say jumper to lift his body in upward direction. So that is also very important for the jump. And finally, it can provide also some initial force. This is very technical thing, that you see, initial force means this is the curve, this is actually force time curve, actually impulse curve it is. Now this small curve, this indicates the impulse curve of the arm movement. Now this impulse curve, and this is the, from here, this is the force time curve of the leg movement. That means extension going up. Now if the leg movement extension is done from here, then it, or from zero, then it will get this type of curve, and only this white portion will be the area. That means impulse will be this much. But if the arm movement is accelerated at first at B position, and from this position leg movement is starting of leg movement or starting of leg extension is done, then we will get this dotted portion as more area or more impulse. So that is how at the time of starting the you can say upward movement, it can have some initial force. So this is a very great advantage as per mechanics. So that is how it is also possible if we properly coordinated the movement. It shows, you see, the arm movement should be started should slightly ahead of body's movement. That means leg extension should be done bit you can say slower, or you can say just very a few very milliseconds after the you can say acceleration of the arm movement. That is the main coordination. That coordination should be learned actually. For high level jumper, it is seen like that. Now finally we can see this is the acceleration time curve. If we see this, you see this is the main body movement curve, and these are the force curve, you can say acceleration curve of the you can say our limb movement. We see when acceleration curves of the limbs, they come down, that means retardation, they are going sharp retardation. That time with retardation, the main body becomes accelerated. That is the unique, you can say, mechanical aspect or relation between the arm movement and leg movement. That means leg movement, arm movement should be moved very fast and stopped it. And after you can say starting of the arm movement, the leg movement should be started. That is what the arm movement can contribute. So as conclusion, I can say that human movement in general and in sports movement in particular are very complex in nature. For understanding the nature and purpose of every detail of the movement task, every movement task should be analyzed on the basis of, you can say, principles of mechanics. And biomechanical analysis of movement will be in one side be helpful to understand the movement phenomena from the academic point of view, and will provide important you can say clues for improvement of sports techniques on the other. So this is how this biomechanical analysis can be done or should be done for you can say even the simple movement that is generally ignored in you can say in most of the cases. Oh, that is what I wanted to mention. I again lastly I want to extend my thanks to the organizer for just sharing my views in this seminar. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Sudarshan Bhaumik. And of course, it was a very informative session. And now the session is open for questions. If you have any question, you can type it in the chat box also. Anybody having any question?
Hello, Dr. Anthony.
Yes.
As of now, in our YouTube Live, most of the participants haven't have any questions regarding the session and discussion of Professor Bomixer. Thank you.
Okay. Then thank you very much, Professor for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think we should move for the second speaker.
Sir Anthony?
Yes.
We will be presenting the certificate to Professor Bomik, and then we will be proceeding as well to the second.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Anthony, for understanding. Thank you so much. Sir Vince?
Yes, sir. Can I share screen now?
Sir, we can see your screen, Sir Vince.
Okay, okay, I can see you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, I can see it. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bomik.
Okay.
So let me just read the citation. The certificate of appreciation is awarded to Professor Sudarshan Bhowmik for imparting his valuable insight and expertise as resource speaker during the international webinar on sports biomechanics with the theme Applying Biomechanics for the Betterment of Sports, organized by IAPES in collaboration with International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education and Iron Games, and World Strength Lifting Federation, given this 14th day of March 2021, Bangkok, Thailand, via Zoom platform. Signed by the country head representative of IAPES, Mr. Limuel O. Abellanida, the president of the International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education and Iron Games, Dr. Kauka Bazim, and signed by yours truly, Dr. Julson Santos, the president of IAPES. Once again, the certificate of appreciation is awarded to Professor Sudarshan Bhowmik.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you
you
very
so
much.
much,
I am
Professor.
honored. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
Sir Anthony, thank you.
Yes. So today, now we have with us Dr. Vishwanath Sundar, Senior Biomechanist, National Institute of Sports, Malaysia. He is a founder of Sports Science Virtual Lab called Vishwa, and is a certified biomechanics specialist recognized by National Exercise and Sports Trainers Association, USA. Besides, he is a very qualified hockey coach and a good player of hockey. He has conducted many seminars and workshops in the field of biomechanics. Presently, he is working with the elite athletes of Malaysia, especially the hockey and badminton. I welcome Dr. Vishwanath Sundar for his presentation. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your kind introduction. I will share the screen first.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Kishore and Dr. Jelson for giving me this opportunity for sharing some of the information on my experiences. So as the theme is focusing on betterment of sports and improvising the performance, so I'm going to speak on the aspects and prospects of the sports biomechanics in specific to high performance sports. So before going to this presentation, please have a look between the first Olympics and the 2016 Olympics. See the difference of the performance. You can see here 10.80 and in 2016 is 9.61. Just a minute, we'll disable. Okay. So basically from 1912 to 2016, imagine that all over the world, we are manageable to reduce 1 second of time. So imagine that the person who won the gold medal in 1912 is no longer eligible to compete in Tokyo Olympics. So you can see the qualification timing is 10.05 seconds. So only the sports scientist, physical educationist, and coaches knows the value of 1 second. How far this is most important. So we can able to achieve, and we can able to achieve only 1 second in 100 years. So what is the basic difference? Why and how the changes has been made from 1912 to 2016? What are the differences? What are the key differences that happened? First thing is the camera technology and how far we got the information from the athletes. And second one is the shoe and clothing. See, there is no spikes and they are wearing a specific spikes and different clothing. These are loose clothing. They are specifically to aerodynamics. And you can see the surfaces, how far the surfaces changes. As the surfaces changes, the biomechanical principle changes. And the infrastructure we have now is tremendous when compared to 1912. there is so much of research has been done and so much of improvisation has been gone through and still going on all over the world for the betterment of the sports and to improve the performance of an athlete. I would like to give another example from marathon. So from 1912 to 2016, imagine that Ken and Kipchoge has a vast difference for the gold medal. It's around 30 minutes plus. And when I plot the gold medal of 1912, in 2016, his position was 131st position. Imagine that how far the performance, how far our physiology, how far our mechanical aspect has been changed in 100 years. But when we compare to the top 3 people, which is gold, silver, and bronze, they won within less than 90 seconds, which is 1% difference between all the medals. So that 1% is the key for us to improve the performance in high performance sports and or elite athletes. So we are really keen on that 1%. This is another example from rowing. From 2016, you can able to see between the gold and silver. I'll play again. If you can able to identify who is the gold and silver, that would be really tremendous. That is going to be very difficult because that's a kind of photo finish has been taken. So this is the difference between the gold medal and silver medal. The difference is less than 0.01%. Another record has been made in the cycling last year, and then again there was a photo finish. The difference was 0.0028%. It's very difficult to define the gold and silver. We are trying to improvise and improve the performance of an athlete. So really we are focusing on that 1% is really matter. It's not only the biomechanics, it's about the overall sports science and coaching and medicine. So the integration is the only key thing to improve the performance and for the betterment of the sports. So basically, when we approach sports biomechanics, the key thing is to minimize the injury and enhance the performance of an athlete and to give a feedback to the athlete of the efficiency of the technique. The efficiency is the key here. If we can able to improve the efficiency, in turn, the reflection will be the minimizing of the injury and the enhancement of the performance. As Professor Sudarshan said, there are 2 key things. One is qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis. So I don't want to go in deep, but this is a specific model where it has been validated and it was constantly improvised in rest of the world. So the key thing is the coach has to observe and he has to evaluate the information and provide the intervention and prepare again. So this cycle will continue as and when the performance improves. So what are the key tool which is required for us and which is open source? And one is Technique for Apple users, Mac users, and Coach's Eye for the Android users. And in quantitative analysis, there are plenty of tools available in the market. Some of them I will discuss. And so each and every information is a key for an athlete to enhance the performance. So why we need technology and what is the key thing in that? So going back to the history, Aristotle in 384 BC, so he identified that if a man walks, he is not walking in a straight line, his body is moving zigzag. And how he identified that? He was trying to walk along the wall and then he put the red like a ink on his head and then he started walk against the wall and then he found that there was a zigzag line. So obviously as a scientist, I have a doubt because he has said 384 BC, but to double confirm that I use a motion capture system to capture that, and then I use a specific marker to identify that. And then this is one of the head marker, and then you can see that is a zigzag line. Imagine that how in 384 BC Aristotle can able to identify without any kind of technology. He identified that our body is moving not in a straight line. That was a zigzag. So that is the real key thing. And later, they found zoprasoscope is a first kind of projector. So they want to see whether the horse, when is going running, when horse is moving, whether the horse is in the flight phase or not. To identify that, they took a picture, and to visualize better, they have found zoprasoscope in 1830. And Julius in 1830 again, he found a strobe motion is a chronographic gun. Whatever skill we perform, so it can be a sequence of in a particular frame. In one frame, we can able to see the complete sequence. In recent times, it has been termed as strobe motion, and the key software is Dotfish, and it can be done through that software. And later in 1920, the first thing is active markers. So active markers is there will be a light on our body, and then the normal video camera will be captured, and all the information will be retrieved from that. And later, with that improvisation, the rotoscoping has developed. So all the children are seeing Cartoon Net. The rotoscoping is a method to deliver the Cartoon Network in olden days. Imagine that in 1985, the 3 seconds of trial took around 17 hours to complete to develop this kind of animation through rotoscoping. To summarize all this technology, this is motion capture, this is a video analysis, and this is a kind of IMU sensors. And this is Kinematic, where from the single camera we can able to detect whether the human is walking or what kind of movement he is performing. So to give a brief understanding of motion capture system, so some might have new to the motion capture system. So you can see there are small cameras around the images here. So these are the motion capture system works in infrared rays, and all this is around 11 cameras around the athlete, and we have recorded using the passive markers, and all the data has been transferred to another software called Visual 3D. So in Visual 3D, we create all these segments virtually, and then we define the joint angles, angular velocity, and whatever analysis we need based on our objective. So I will give an example and how we approach to an athlete. So there is an athlete who came with right lateral calf tightness, and then doctors requested us to identify what is the key issue in running so that he can run without any pain. So we need to make his running pattern more efficient. So when we see visually, it's very difficult to identify for the rest of the people. So the key thing is to make the video in slow motion. So that is called qualitative analysis. You can clearly see how far the foot is get pronated, and you can see there is the reduction of the width between the knees. So these are the basic key things which we can able to retrieve qualitatively. So to get more information, so again, as I said, we have done the motion capture analysis and we got some deeper information. And these are the parameters like step length, stride length, stance time, flight time, etc. we will get. And here you can see there is no much difference between the step length and stride length when we increase the speed. And this is the knee angle at foot strike. Knee angle at the foot strike. So to understand better of this graph, so this is the right heel strike, mid stance, toe off, and this line is the left heel strike, mid stance and toe off. So we need to understand this first. So when we see there is a excessive movement in the adduction and abduction, which is the knee is moving inward and outward excessively. So when the graph is moving towards the positive direction and negative direction, so the negative is the abduction, which is the knee is moving outward. And if it is positive, the knee is moving inward. Whenever is right heel strike and whenever is in the mid stance phase, there is an excessive of abduction in the movement. And similarly, the shank rotation, there was an excessive internal rotation in the shank, and that is the key thing which causes him a right lateral tightness. So because of the tightness, there was an excessive pronation on his right foot, and in turn it reflects on the right shank rotation and the abduction of the movement. So you can able to see clearly there was minimum movement when compared to the left and right of the dorsi and plantar flexion, which is keeping the foot down to the earth. There was a minimal movement. So these are the information which we will provide to the doctors, and there will be a rehabilitation protocol will be suggested, and he will be tested again, and he was now better in the current situation. So that is a process how we are working on. And this is another example I would like to give. There is an Paralympic athlete who is having a lower back pain. So you can see her right arm is moving comfortable and left arm is static, which means she is a Paralympic athlete, so she cannot able to move her left arm. That is a constraint for her. So with that constraint, we asked her to run, and we need to identify what is the real cause of the low back pain. And you can clearly see there is a excessive difference in the step length between the right and left. And now we are clear enough that there is some issue with the right leg. And when we try to identify between the right and left leg of the knee angle at foot strike, there was an excessive high knee angle at foot strike, which directly reflects that she is not using his gluteus muscle to run further, to run forward. So she's trying to move up so that the excessive force is on the back. So this is understanding from the biomechanics perspective. So we provide a rehabilitation protocol and then we improvise the performance. And here you can see because her left arm is not supportive, so she tried to always in the counterclockwise movement, clockwise movement, so that she always run on the right side, so that there is a problem on the right side. So there is a cause of stiffness caused her for the athlete. And we found that there was a excessive adduction and abduction movement on the knee, and we recommended for the knee stability exercises. And to double confirm that whether the gluteus is creating an issue, we put the EMG muscles, and then we found that there is an minimal activation of the gluteus medius and excessive activation of quadratus lumborum. So the activation, because of the tightness of the quadratus lumborum is the key. So we identified that and then we reported to the doctors. So this is the process which we are working. So to give an performance based, so we have a badminton player who she cannot able to recover back quickly. And so since she's a normal athlete, so we directly went to EMG to identify whether her muscle is working properly or not. And for the lunges, the key muscle is the gluteus muscles and the quad muscles. And we found that there is no much difference between the quadriceps muscles between right and left or in the gluteus muscle. So the information is, so we cannot say that the athlete is saying wrong because she is feeling that she cannot able to retrieve faster. So still as a biomechanist, we need to identify what is the key thing. So then we identified, so we plan to do the isokinetic test. So what is the amount of force he can able to generate? And in that process, we saw that isokinetic test is quite normal. So then we shifted to isometric test, and then we done in specifically 90-degree angle and 60, 30, and 0-degree angles. So in this phase, we found that when we compare in 60-degree angle, so that is the 30% difference between the left and right. So the left leg is weaker. And we move to 45-degree angle, again we can see around 68% weaker between the left and right, so left is weaker. And again when we perform 30-degree of angle, we again saw around 70% of difference between left and right. So the key thing is whenever she lunges, at that particular angle she cannot able to retrieve back. So we infer that so SNC should train at that particular angle for her to retrieve back and faster. And this is an feedback which is done before and after. So green is a one after and white is the one before. So here you can see this is quite normal. Now the green is coming forward and still the white lunges, the one which is done before was still at the back. It takes some longer time to come front, so to retrieve back. So this is the key thing. So for me, biomechanics is the key thing for the identification. If the biomechanics can able to identify what is the real issue, and then we can able to really touch the performance and we can able to improvise the performance. So what are the prospects? So there are different modeling approaches is there. I don't want to go into the depth of modeling, but I want to explain what is the modeling approach. Basically, we will be having the marker sets in the body, and this is a software called OpenSim, it's open source, and they have the specific model, and we need to match up this human marker and the OpenSim markers into one, and then we try to get that model, and then we are trying to get all the information from the athlete. So basically the process which I said before is the scaling, and the first step is the inverse kinematics. When we perform, we can able to get all the joint angles from the athlete, and when we perform inverse dynamics, and with the help of RRA, which is a residual algorithm, we can able to get all the joint moments, and with the help of computed muscle control, we can able to see what is the muscle got excited, what is the muscle got activated, and which is not. And in turn, we can able to replicate the same thing with the forward dynamics too. And this is an example for the spectators. Here you can see the red one is the activation of the muscle. And here you can able to see the key phases, the knee and the ankle one. And basically, with the help of CMC, we can able to see which of the muscles is get activated. And here you can see this is a kind of technology. So we can able to identify the specific muscle stiffness, whether the athlete is stiff or not. So because if the muscle is stiff, obviously the mechanics of an athlete will be changed. So if the athlete feels that during the training, if he is fit, if he feels as a kind of stiffness in the body, this is some kind of technology where we can able to identify that. So the name of the technology is myotone. So it provides some evidence-based approach for the sports scientist. And the next one is the thermal imaging. So there is some evidence that based on the fatigue, there is a changes in the mechanics of an athlete. So to identify that, thermal imaging has been improvised. So thermal imaging is to identify how far our bodies get heat. So basically thermal imaging is done in different engineering field. So we are trying to implement that in sports. So here you can able to see all this information. So yellow one is the higher heat produced by our body, and next to the orange. and orange is also quite high, so we can able to see how high our body is generating the heat. And so as and when it reaches high, as a sports scientist, so we recommend to the nutritionist to provide some kind of a fluid replacement. So the fluid replacement is the key, the recovery is the key, and one is the fluid replacement. And even you can able to see the blood vessels from the thermal imaging. And basically we can able to compare how far our body is activating between the right and left leg, right arm and the left arm. You can basically see all this information from thermal imaging. And in recent approaches, there's a OpenCV is a software. It's an open source using the Python software, and where we can able to get all the information from using a mobile camera. So basically, everyone should capture the normal walking video from the athlete or person whom you wish to do analysis. You just capture it and then use the OpenCV to analyze, and you will get all the information you needed. And this is the AI technology which is going to implement in this Olympics Tokyo. And basically the coaches and spectators will get all the information which is happening on the field, and then they will get all the information in instant way, so that the sports scientists will have some enhanced information on coaches too, and we can able to modify and provide a better feedback to the athletes before and after each trial. So that is going to be the key thing, and this is going to create more competitive environment in the Olympics setup. And thank you so much. And once again, I thank the organizing committee for giving me an opportunity. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sundar. It was really a great presentation. Practically, we have seen how the biomechanics can help athletes to improve their performance and to identify their movement pattern to reduce injuries. And accordingly, they can go for the rehabilitation of these movements. And we have seen some new technology which is available right now, like AI technology which is coming, and to see the fatigue, maybe through of athletes through thermal imaging and biopton for the stiffness and so on and so forth. So this session is open now for any question.
Hello, Dr. Anthony.
Yeah.
As of now, just like with Professor Bomik, on the YouTube live for the participants, they are congratulating and thanking the first two presenters, speakers for the job well done. There are no specific questions that they have raised at the moment. Thank you, Dr. Anthony.
Thank you, Dr. Vishnu Sundar. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me read the citation. The certificate of appreciation is given to Dr. Viswanath Sundar for imparting his valuable insight and expertise as a resource speaker during the international webinar on sports biomechanics with the theme Applying Biomechanics for the Betterment of Sports, organized by the International Association of Physical Education and Sports in collaboration with the International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education, and Iron Games and the World Strength Lifting Federation, given this 14th day of March 2021, Bangkok, Thailand, via Zoom platform. Signed by our country head and representative, Mr. Limuel O. Abilianido Jr., the president of the International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education, and Iron Games, and the Vice President of the World Strength Lifting Federation, Dr. Kaukab Azim, and the President of the International Association of Physical Education and Sports, yours truly, Dr. Julesod M. Santos. The certificate of appreciation is awarded to Dr. Viswanath Sundar. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Okay, once again, Welcome everybody, and this is the last presentation of the day. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Pedro Moroso, a great personality in the field of biomechanics. He's a very young, dynamic professor, presently working at Polytechnic Institute, Lieira, Portugal. He is specialized in biomechanics, physiology, health sciences, and research methods. He has done a lot of research in the field of biomechanics of swimming. Now his research activity focuses mostly on products and processes engineering, aiming to bring the gap between the lab and the real application. He has 208 research publications in highly reputed journals and successfully completed 14 research projects. He's a proud recipient of the following awards: New Investigator Award in 2014, Hans Gross Emerging Researcher Award in 2017 from International Society of Biomechanics in Sports, Sports Science Award from Portuguese Olympic Committee in 2020. It's my pleasure to welcome you, sir. You may start your presentation. The floor is yours, sir.
Hello there. Let me just start sharing my screen. And first of all, please let me thank you very much, the organization, for the invitation. I will try to speak slowly because English is not my native language, so I'm sorry for some mistakes that I might say. But indeed, it is a huge pleasure for me to be here with you. We are still in the night here in Portugal, but it's an honor to wake up and start listening to biomechanics and such nice presentations that the other speakers just did. And indeed, it was a challenge for me to start thinking about what should I talk about on biomechanics as a tool to boost your performance. So indeed, well, some people might say that I'm young, but I do think that experience comes from the years where you take challenges, and I did take a lot of challenges throughout the years, and so I tried to manage and put some of them together in this presentation. Please feel free to get in touch with me by email, by social network. I will be more than happy in the future to exchange ideas, because that's the goal in all kind of webinars, congresses, and it's to know people, to know what they do, and then we can exchange some ideas. So let me just start with something I really like to start every presentation that I do. That is just telling you that in Portugal, we are not only known by the very nice beaches that we have in Algarve. So if you want to come and see our country, then you will be able to see that we have some very nice features. But I come from a city here in the middle of the country where we have been working hardly on sports sciences, on sports biomechanics, and even on biomechanics in other fields that are now getting more and more attention. And I'm speaking specifically on tissue engineering and how biomechanics will prove to be a very strong field so that we can improve the health of our citizens. And with that, let me tell you that I was born fat. Okay, so I was born fat, and probably because of that, my parents always put me playing sports. So I played sports all my life, even ballet. So this is me here, very fat guy, making ballet with all the ladies. And I say that because sports has been a constant in my life. And as you know, as we all know, sports are very strong in commitment, in team effort, in working as a team and as a network. And that's something that I really, really learned. I'm nothing alone by myself. So everything you're going to see, it's the work of Pedro Moroso with a lot of people. And that's the thing I most love is get to know people, get to share ideas, Some of them are probably the best biomechanics in the world, and having the chance to talk with them, to discuss with them, it's what makes me the happiest guy in Earth. So as already said, I do focus on sports biomechanics and also on tissue engineering. And I have a background with a lot of sports, with a lot of organizations, always trying to learn and get some more inputs to improve performance. And indeed, that was probably my biggest honor today. It was in 2017 when the International Society of Biomechanics in Sports recognized me for the work that I've been doing. I think that it was a humble work, but they decided to recognize me. So I would be more than glad to thank that society and thank, of course, the International Association of Physical Education and Sports for coming together with these kind of initiatives, because that's the goal, to increase knowledge. Well, after the presentations that we just have, the excellent presentations, it's hard for me to know what should I be speaking about, because they talked about the different types of analysis that we can do and just the examples that we saw, which were a lot of areas and very, very interesting. With that, I always have a doubt, that is, there is so much literature nowadays regarding sports performance. And as Professor just said, the difference is so minimal that we in the sports science become thinking, okay, so how can I really change performance? How can I really get that gold medal? And biomechanics, at least from my point of view, in many of the sports that we see in the Olympic Games, is the key feature. I do know that physiology and psychology will come along, but the technique in many of the sports, and regarding to the technique, even the energy that we need to spend to make that technique is, of course, determined. And with that, I would like to make the challenge for all of us to start thinking in the near future on biophysics and not so much on biomechanics, because we do need to come along with energetic systems to get along with that kinetic and kinematic evaluation. So when you see this type of books, I do have I teach, well, when I teach my students, I always tell them that books are very, very good. They are very interesting. We should read the most books that we can. But every book does not come with the practical aspect. So all the books, there's something missing that you only get along when you are living it. And so we cannot be just theoretical. We need to go to the field. We need to evaluate. We need to have the problems evaluating so that we can really understand how can we improve sports performance. And just as an idea, I'm very critic here in Portugal. So I do belong to our National Swimming Federation, but I'm very critical regarding the choices that our government does. And in Portugal, we don't get gold medals in the Olympics, as you may know. But a small country like New Zealand, they do. And the effort that they put on the technical evaluation is totally different from the technical evaluation here in Portugal. For instance, they were, this is a long time ago, but they were requiring biomechanics people just to evaluate some type of specific sport. So different biomechanic people. Here in Portugal, we don't have that. And that's the future, because let's take examples. Who invests in this type of knowledge get medals. The ones who don't get it. So even if in Portugal, we are recognized as some of the best researchers, then you go to the Olympics and we don't win. So something must change. And I do hope that happens to be in the near future. Let me just talk about this diagram that is very informative, I guess. It's true for all sports that I know, even for health, because even a small man with their 70s, he wants to increase his performance, of course, not playing sports, but on his daily life. So the athlete, the ultimate goal is to increase sports performance. That's the truth. That's the only thing that we should be looking up to. But there are different aspects that we need to consider. the biomechanics, the bioenergetics. As I said, these in the near future will come along and talk about biophysics and the psychological. And of course, along with that, we have the genetics and the environment. So if one of us is trying to go to a team on any kind of sports, let's say swimming, and we want to do some biomechanics, if we don't consider all the features that will improve sports performance, something will be missing. And I had that example in my life. And so getting to learn with your examples, it's very, very important. I will talk about that example later on my talk, but it's just to recognize that indeed you might have genetics, which I usually say that gives you the tools, but biomechanics will teach them how to use them. And in the previous talk, we heard a lot of examples, specific examples on specific person. And that's the key issue, that we cannot go along and get average and get mean and standard deviations when we are talking about elite high-level sports performance. We are talking about a subject, and that subject needs to improve. So if you get the mean and the average and the standard deviation from the team, that will not tell you anything about that specific athlete. You will get the average for everyone, but that will not feature everyone, probably no one, because they will all be different from the average. They will have their own value. And that's something that we need to dig deeper and deeper and deeper. So we need to start focusing on the individualization, on the subject in that specific moment. And at least for the most sports I get in touch with, we are talking about 4 years planning. We are talking about, let's take the Olympics, and then we have, well, okay, this, we all know that things change a little bit, but usually you get the planning for the 4 years after the Olympic Games for that specific subject, not for the team. As I'm sure you all know, well, I'm from the country of Cristiano Ronaldo, right? So indeed, Cristiano Ronaldo is a legend for us. It's the symbol for our country. And even Cristiano Ronaldo, he improved significantly with the biomechanic approaches regarding the free kick. And from there, and from using the artificial intelligence that Professor just speak a little bit about, we do know that the engineering side coming along and working with us, namely on the finite element systems, we can get a lot of data that might be very, very relevant for at least estimate the sports performance. And I think I usually say this at least because that's a very key issue. That is, okay, so I have this athlete, which is a very good athlete, which I'm going to prepare him for the Olympic Games in Tokyo. But we know that in that week, things might change. They will change according to the day, according to the night, according to the time and period. So there is a lot of individual variation that we need to be able to look up to. And that's something that in the future, we need to learn much, much more. That is the variability of the subject. With that said, and getting along with the talk that we just had, there are many ways to evaluate biomechanics. I'm not going to talk about them as they already did, but my main issue is, my main goal, getting to know all these techniques, is how can we get them together? How can we just not talk about one domain and forget the others, but indeed try to put them in the same bag and try to get the information that we really need on that specific subject? I do think that is the future. Professor just talked about thermography, but thermography alone without any other technique will probably never be useful for us. But just recently, me and some colleagues of mine, we are working on a new machine to make leg extension and leg curl, adjusting or inverting the profile of the contraction. And we are going to evaluate the inflammation of the knee with the thermography, but regarding the kinetic parameters that we are going to evaluate. That's the idea. Let's not just think about getting a system and use it, but getting all the systems working together for a common goal. And let me just tell you something. I don't know if Professor Sundar knows about when he made the presentation of Edward Muybridge. Let me just say that most people don't know, but he killed the lover of his wife. And I say that that's history, but history is important. He killed the lover of his wife, and we all are here now. We know what he did because he was not arrested. Because in that time in the States, they thought, okay, he had reasons to that because his wife was cheating on him, so he could kill the man. So, and gladly he was not arrested, and he was able to develop the technology that is the basis, the foundations for a lot of the things that we do right now. And this is something that I did past in the years ago. So when in my city, when I was talking about in Leiria, we had no system to watch the swimmers below water. So how can we look at them? How can we make some qualitative analysis? There was no system. I said, that's not possible. We need to see the swimmers below water because that's the most important phase of the swimmer. And so I just bought a surveillance camera by 100 euros or something very cheap. And with the surveillance camera and some engineering by my head, I was able to get a system that could provide us very nice inputs, very nice insights. An engineer guy from my city saw it and said, wow, this is a very nice idea. Let's try to do something a little bit further. And so we come up with a system with 4 cameras, synchronized and getting the swimmer, well, throughout distance, 25 meters or 50 meters distance, with the 4 cameras recording at the same time. And this is just to show you an idea that most of the times people like me get barriers. So let's say, well, I want to do this, but I can't. Okay, I don't have the tools. And so most of us complain. Let's change this mindset. Let's change everything. Let's say, no, I will not quit. I will try to do everything I can so that I can get up with that. And that's what I did. I didn't quit. And so then in my city, all the swimmers from the country were able to synchronously get their qualitative analysis. And this was many, many years ago. So what type of inputs can we really get from sports biomechanics so that we can boost our performance? Let's just get some examples on kinematics. This is our lab, so where we try to get some motion capture. And this is something that some of the features that we were really interested in. Because I don't know where you live and if you have the same challenges, but here in Portugal, this came as a fashion. So everybody was working with unstable surfaces. So everyone saw it, started working with it, and then everyone was doing it in every athlete of the country. And there's no such thing as trying to evaluate the biomechanics behind that type of effort, behind that type of stimulus. And the goal was indeed trying, as I said, to come along and get some more input on that system. And indeed try to evaluate, for instance, if there was some muscle activity that would differ from the stable, ambient stable surface. And the truth is that we were able to notice that most of the things were not supported by literature. And so I have a lot of colleagues of mine here in Portugal, and I will talk only about them because I don't know in the rest of the world, but who are teaching wrongly. We are teaching biomechanics based on their ideas, on myths, on some things that were tested 30 or 40 years ago, and new testing just showed that, well, things are different. And this is a very strong message that we need to wake up for. We need to look what science is telling us right now, and not 30 or 40 years ago, when the data was not strong enough as it is right now, and some myths came along with that ideas. Well, this is not about sport performance, or maybe it is. I'll let that question for you, because as I said, we need to come up with challenges. We need to get our hands on different things. And when I had the chance on evaluating the mouse dynamics, I really took that challenge. And so it was difficult to get the markers on the rat, but we did it. And after getting it, we were able to evaluate the performance walking. And why was I saying that? Well, maybe this might be useful for me, because there were some concerns regarding the kinematical analysis that we were able to observe in this rat that made me the question, okay, I'm making a lot of research, but how can I really help athletes? How can I really help coaches? Because I don't want to help the rat, right? Or maybe I want, because that was for survivance. But when we are talking about sports performance, how can I really make the key feature that the coach will tell, oh, yes, indeed, that was very, very relevant for me, and that will help me get the athlete stronger. This is one of the examples that I was talking to you about. This is our best Olympic thrower. At the time, we were preparing for the Olympic Games in Beijing, 2008. And as I said, Marco was getting ready, I will say, with a very, very strong biomechanical analysis. So I was making a lot of kinematical analysis. So we did change the main feature of this thrower, because he was shifting his center of mass, his center of gravity. It was this kind of behavior that you can see here. So he was rotating, and the center of mass was going too much on the right side. And with the appropriate approach, it took us a lot of time. We should never give up, because it took us about 1.5 years to make it much more on a straight line. And it was with that straight line that he was able to get the national record and the best result to get to Beijing. So as you can see, well, this is just a small motion video from one of his throws. As you can see, and now as he rotates, he tries to get his center of mass a little bit lower so that he can rotate better on his axis, and then try to make this more like this green line that you see over here. With that said, let me just show you another example on race analysis, race walking. Because, as I said, at least for me, when someone gets to you and asks you, well, Pedro, are you able to do this? Just say yes. And then try to see, okay, well, how will I do it? Because that's what the world needs, is people challenge themselves. And so when I was evaluating our throwers, the guy from the race walking came to me and said, Pedro, can you also help us on race walking? Because I don't know if you know that, but Portugal has probably some of the best race walkers in the world. And he was very, very interested, because there were differences on the performance that he could not really understand regarding the same athlete and different times of the planning. And so once again, I was able to make some evaluation on 3D kinematical analysis. And that's why I just used the example of the rat, because it was with the rat that I saw a mechanism to compensate the right side with the left side. And that's one of the things that the athlete that I just evaluated had. Because if we are talking a very short effort, let's say running the 100 meters or running 200 meters, you don't need to be thinking about, oh, I need to save my energy. No, you don't. You just need to make those 10 seconds and that's it. So you don't need to worry very much about being efficient, okay? So you just do it and that's it. If you don't have energy after that, there's no problem. But we are talking about the 20 kilometers race walking or the 50 kilometers race walking. That's a very, very big time. So we need to be careful with that efficiency. And so getting to know this bilateral analysis is very, very important for us to get success. And that's what I did. I took some kinematical analysis. I changed it with electromyography, trying to understand how can we improve the performance of that athlete. And we came up with very, very interesting results. Let's see how it goes in Tokyo 2021 and not in Tokyo 2020 as it was supposed to be. And most of the times, let's go back to basics. That's something that most of the researchers forget. This is me making some bench press, just remembering that changing the grip is determinant. And why was that very, very important for me? Because getting with that, I was able to change some movements regarding some of the athletes, like the free throwers, the shot put throwers, that really need to improve their sports performance. We need to look deeper on this. We need to go back to the basics and change a lot of things. And that comes along with the kinetics. Let me just, I'm sorry, I didn't do. Can you see the videos, of course? And probably some of you are well aware of this type of evaluation. This is something that we do to our best athletes. This is a elite athlete on handball, and so he's able to perform this type of evaluation, or he's not. And this is something that we really should also think about. Just take a look on the pressure that we are putting on his knees. So we got used to make these evaluations on maximal repetition, on strength, but is this good for his needs? Well, of course it's not. But are we paying the price maybe for a lesion that might come from this evaluation? We need to be careful with that. And how can we do that? Well, just taking a look at biomechanics. I'm sure you all agree with me that this repetition, which is a very, very high load, but a little bit smaller than this load, and a little bit smaller than this load, you will all agree with me that this performance is faster than this one, and this is faster than this one. That's for sure. There's no other thing that biomechanics tell us, that is, when you increase the load, your velocity will decrease. So let's use that. This is a small system that you see around here that we are using right now, because indeed with this system, we can monitor the velocity of the bar. And with that velocity, we can get everything that we need regarding strength training. But as I said, this is because we get back to the basics. It was a long, long time ago, but let's take a look at it. Let's remember the hill curve. Let's remember that there is a very strong relationship between force and velocity, and that is power. What is the main feature for that shot put athlete? It's power. What is the main feature for the high jumper? It's power. What is the key feature for the long jumper or the tree jump? It's power. That's a key feature that we need to look up to. So we need to make force, but on a very, very short time or with very high speed. You will probably then agree with me that if I monitor the velocity that you do the squat or the bench press or any type of exercise, and if I get that velocity, let's say that you make the bench press at 70 centimeters per second, then I'm quite sure that we'll be talking about 65% of the maximum load that you can get. This is common for every, and there are now a lot of literature showing us that me, you, everybody that is listening, if you go to the bench press and you take an effort around 15 to 20 centimeters per second, that is the maximum load that you can support. So let's look back, let's reduce the load that you need. Let's evaluate the velocity. And with that evaluation, I can know the maximum load that you can get without making that type of effort that you just saw in the movies. And that type of effort that is very, very strong for your joints and might be bad for the performance of the athlete because he might get injured, of course. And I don't know if you are aware of this, but if you're not, please start looking at this in the future, which is the deceleration phase in the power actions. So when you take the bench press as an example, but this happens with all the strength exercises, when you take the bench press, then you make it very rapidly, very powerful, you will have a decelerating phase. How important is that? Well, it depends. But for the shot put, it's one of the most important things because you don't want the athlete to throw and just in the instant before throwing, he will decelerate the phase of his contracted muscles. So we need to be aware of that. And what I did with the strength training on that athlete you saw when we were getting ready for the Olympic Games in Beijing, he was making the bench press, throwing the bar. So indeed, trying to eliminate that decelerating phase. And when we talk about these systems and the useful of technology to help us, let's take a look at the costs, because indeed, not every coach can afford having an OptiTrack system. Not every coach can get a T4 system, like I just showed you on the movies. But technology is improving, and now there are a lot of systems much cheaper that might be useful for the biomechanical analysis. So what am I saying with this? What I'm saying is that biomechanics should come to a daily routine evaluation, for instance, using an app, a very cheap app. But then from times to times, the athlete might get a deeper evaluation, getting a more expensive system. But I'm quite sure that getting to know biomechanics and getting them to use it on a daily basis will be very informative and will give the right key tools so that when they come to a deeper evaluation, we should be able to get the analysis and get the data most important for the evaluation. So this is another Olympic athlete that we have in Portugal. We were working with her very early, and this is something that, well, this was quite challenging because she was at the time with 99 kilograms of body mass, and I didn't want her to lose weight. Well, there was a time where she was thinking, well, I'm a little bit too fat, I want to lose, but I said, no, you don't want to lose weight, at least not right now. You want to get power. And so we were able to increase strongly her strength without changing her body composition. What you see on the blue and on the red circle, it's 6 months of difference. So in 6 months, I was able to maintain her body composition, changing drastically her power behavior on strength performance. And of course, that was a challenge because using my eyes only, in that time, we didn't have this technology to evaluate power. So using my eyes, I was looking at her and I was trying to evaluate how many repetitions are you going to do when you are focusing on power. And you are going to tell me, oh, that's not possible. It is. Try it. Try to make a lot of practice, get on the field. And if you are 100% focus on what is happening, and you are watching the athlete and you tell him, okay, so make it the most powerful you can, you will see that this is Irina, so sometimes at 7th repetition, okay, no, now you are not working on power anymore. You decrease your velocity significantly. Okay, let's stop. Let's make just these 7 repetitions. And this is a very important message. We, on the biomechanics, we need to start getting our eyes improved. We need to be able to watch the athlete, but watch the biomechanical features behind the athlete. That is the most important thing. But just also as a message, let's see that Irina, she get the minimums to go to the Olympics in Rio 2016. But then there was an injury, and so she didn't go. So every time we talk about biomechanics, every time we talk about sports, we try about doing our best. But there are some things that we are not able to control. And this is one of the things that we are not able to control. And so she had a lesion at home, and so she was not able to go to the Olympics. She will go now to Tokyo, and let's see how she comes up with. And one other example that I would like to talk, because I was introduced with the swimming feature, but indeed that's one of the areas that I work a lot. But once again, because it is a challenge. And at the time I was taking my master degree, I was told that, no, sorry, Pedro, but you are not able to measure the forces that the swimmer is making inside the water. So you need to come out of the water, put them on a machine, a swim bench, and then evaluate the force. And I said, no, I don't want that, because it has nothing to do with swimming inside water. So using a load cell, I come up with a system with a very, very high relationship with swimming without being attached to the swimming block. And so we started making, well, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of evaluations of swimmers, not only in Portugal, but also in some other countries where people wanted my help to evaluate their swimmers. So it's not impossible, it's difficult. Yes, it is. But you need to think, and you need to start thinking, what are the solutions? And this is just to come up with that idea that I just showed. This is the same swimmer in the same effort, making, I will say, 20 strokes. So in every stroke, there is a small difference from the previous one. So this is the average, this is a standard deviation. But shouldn't I be worried only about the average or also about the standard deviation? And that is the key future for the future. That is one of the most important things that I think we are going to listen about in the future, is human variability. Because every time I make this type of movement, even writing, I change. And able to quantify that changing will be for sure very, very important. And I'm sure that machine learning will help us a lot with that. And if I was talking about being useful for the coach, every swimmer that I know works in dry land. Every swimmer, I don't know any swimmer that only swims. They go to the gym. They must go to the gym. But are they using the gym adequately? Is that the most thing? Is that the most important thing that they should be doing on the gym? Let's monitor. Let's evaluate. Let's see what happens. And I was able to evaluate power once again. And this is the normal curve that you are able to get from the swimmers. And indeed, I was able to understand what type of load the swimmer should be using to increase its sports performance. Not just go to the gym and make bench press or make squat, because coaches don't know, okay, with how much load? Body mass, 1.5% of body mass, 2% body mass. They don't know. So they need help from the biomechanical side so that they know which load should be applied for each swimmer on each moment that they are going to prepare for the athlete. And indeed, I do think that's the main reason that will justify the use of gym. Let me just give you one other example. This is a very, very nice, I love this athlete. She's very committed, she's strong, she's a powerful woman that you can see right here. And so when I was working with her, she's young, okay, so we'll see in the near future what will come with her. But in 6 months, I was able to improve her jump performance by 0 centimeters. So you might be saying, "What, Pedro? You didn't do anything," because see, she jumped in September 35 centimeters, and then in February again 35 centimeters. So you didn't improve anything. Well, didn't I? She increased her body mass by 7 kilograms. I don't want her to be thin. I don't mind if she gets more weight than I do, because I need her mass. She's a disco thrower. I need to have a lot of kilograms that I can accelerate so that the discus can go long. So was I not able to increase in 6 months the work, the power of this athlete, even knowing that the height of the jump was still 35 centimeters. And so we need to look further on these obstacles, and not only on getting this type of equipment. Because when I started making these evaluations, people started calling me and telling me, "Well, Pedro, I need to get that evaluation. Should I buy this?" And I said, "No, don't buy this mat if you don't have anyone who is going to be able to understand the values that the mat is going to give. You're going to spend 1,500 euros, but they will not be useful for you. You need the brain. You need someone to know how to interpret those results. Otherwise, you're going to get the 35 centimeters and you're going to think that, okay, my athlete did not improve anything at all." And instead, we do know that you can use, for instance, 3 jumps. You can get your cell phone to get the time of the jump, right? I think that nowadays, most people can record a jump, any type of these jumps, using a cell phone with 120 frames per second. That's enough. Then you take the time. And when you get the time, let me just give you an example, but I take 10 seconds to get the time of a jump, something like that. And then you go to Excel, and then you put, okay, so sorry, this is in Portuguese, but it's easy to understand. So you put the name of the person, you put the body mass, 68 kilos, then you put time. Let's say that she was in the air 0.48 seconds. And if it was 0.48, then you get the height and you get the power, absolute and relative, for the squat jump, for the counter movement jump, and for the Balakov jump. And this is something that I just did. I just put the formulas on the Excel. So this is free. This is not worth 1,500 euros, I guess. But we need the brain. We need to know which results are more important for our athletes. And I just put this picture before making the presentation because of thermography on the previous talk. And indeed, thermography will be quite useful for us. This is just a running example on the changes of the temperature on the surface of the lower limbs on an athlete. Well, with that said, and I'm getting to the end of my presentations, I'm from swimming, so I use time watch, but I'm getting quite at the conclusion of my time. Just to tell you some of the things that I think I really would like you to take as a takeaway message. And these are some of the points. And indeed, all of them are relevant. All of them are important, like the valid and reliable, specific, of course. But what time has taught me throughout the years is that results should be useful for coaches and athletes. I will say that now I make the evaluations for the coaches and the athletes, if with that I can make some publication on a scientific journal, okay, then I will do it. But let's not change this. Let's not make research just to make papers, just to make research on scientific journals without being useful for the athletes and the coaches. That's not the goal of science. We need to improve the athlete and coach. And then, of course, if the results are good to publish, then we should go with that. And this is something that indeed time will tell us. Time is teaching us about that. And now you can see that most of the journals, I'm very honored to be one of the editorial board on Sports Biomechanics Journal. And one of the things that we discussed some years ago is that we need to have the introduction, methods, results, discussion, but also the practical implications. And this is something that all journals are now coming up, because indeed making science, but without being able to tell us what is the practical implications is a drawback on research. And of course, getting to know the features of both lab and field tests. And as you saw, many of my examples are on the field, because that's where action happens. And if there are some students on PhD, master, first degree, whatever, if there are some students, be very careful with your data. Please do that. Don't try to come up with things that didn't work out. I got this paper to make the revision. And so, as you can see here, there is no kind of association between these dots. So the relationship between this y-axis and this x-axis is probably 0. And on the same study, they had this data, okay, on the red dots, and the association, as you can see, is also 0. I'm quite sure of that. What the authors, what they did is that they said that there is a very, very strong negative relationship between this variable and this variable, because they get these two data together and they come up with a very strong association. Listen, everyone, this is girls and this is boys. So there is no type of association between this x-axis and the y-axis. There is not. So they tried to make up with this, and that led me to write a manuscript on the significant bivariate correlations, because there are a lot of people that should be looking deeper on their data, and the reviewers should be aware of this and try to be more cautious with the acceptance. And just to finalize, I think that most of the time we need to go to an evaluation, to a problem, being able to understand that probably we will come up with more questions and more problems after our work. And this is something that always happened in my life. I have a question, I make the biomechanical evaluation, I make all the analysis, and then I come up with 3 or 4 or 5 different questions. And indeed, when I was working on these things on the forces on swimming, I suddenly get a very important feature from one of the best biomechanics in the world. He was talking to me, and he was, but Pedro, that is a challenge, because if we talk about strength and technique, how can we know, how can we increase swimming speed? Because in swimming, you have the 50 meters, but you also have a very long distance. So it is quite different inside the same sport. And inside the same sport, you have the front call, the butterfly, blah, blah, blah. So imagine throughout all the sports. And we really need people who get expertise on the different sports, on the different features, and who is able to use biomechanics to boost performance. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Pedro. It was a really fascinating presentation. And I think there is some question. Maybe can you see the chat box there?
Yes.
I think one of the participants.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the question, but I really need some help about what is aerodynamics in sports. Because just to think if I understand the question, Aerodynamics in sports, it's something that for some of the sports, for instance, when I was using the javelin throw, for the javelin, I use the shot put or even the discus, because the contribution from the aero field, and I'm talking about mostly on the Magnus effect that you get on something that is on the air, that will change the result. On shot put, for instance, aerodynamics will not be significant for anything. But for instance, if you know the kick from Cristiano Ronaldo, and he is able to make the ball then go deeper on the end of the phase of the kick, then the Magnus effect is studied and should be considered. I really don't know if that was the question, because I'm not sure if I was able
that was not a very clear question. Okay, is there any other question there? And I have a question, Dr. Pragro.
Sure.
Yeah, these days, a lot of wearable technology has come up, and it is so cheap. So what are the techniques that, the technology that we can, use, because otherwise we have to spend a lot of money for all these equipments, which is most of the time, it is not feasible. So maybe can you suggest some of the wearable technology that can be used to, make these, understand these movements and patterns and so on and so forth?
Mm-hmm. Sure. If I can give some examples, that's a very interesting question. I don't know if you know this, but there was a group of researchers from the States. They made a lot of evaluations on different costs of different equipment, and one of the things that we talked about is that, how do we know what the gold standard is? Let's say that for running, okay, let's use running. So I was able to get from Australia some data on running using the gold standard. And I'm talking about spending a lot of, well, if you saw the previous presentation, those 21 cameras, we have the quality system here with the force plate. That's very expensive. That's just too much expensive. And indeed, when they were getting the data from the running and then they sent it to me, I was able, and even they used 3 guys to make the same evaluation. And of course, there were some error. And I was able to detect an error that they didn't detect. So on the calibration side, they was not able to notice a small difference, and that was enough to not get such perfect data. And so one of the things that, are we sure that the most expensive systems are the one more accurate? And that's that's a question that we need to think about, because even using 3D kinematical analysis, be careful, because there is some error. And so, for instance, we have a company here in Portugal. I would suggest everyone to look for that company. That is Plux, that is P-L-U-X. P-L-U-X, it's a company here in Portugal with some of my colleagues. Well, now I call them friends, because they are engineers. And as they are engineers, they want our vision, like you just asked. How can we be useful? How can we make something? And they came up with a lot of systems, wearable systems, very, very cheap. Regarding more the physiology, they came up with a system that is spread all over the world, where you can make electromyography as an accelerometer, and then it has a lot of other features, by 150 euros. So for research, that is very, very cheap. And with them, I'm now making a system, well, I'm going to talk about this, but that's for the future. We are making a system that you put on yourself. Okay, so you put on yourself and you go for trail running. You go up on the mountains, you go run for 200 kilometers. And then you come to me, I put it on the computer, and immediately it will tell me the step length, the step frequency, the velocity, etc., etc. So immediately I can have those features. And now we have changed it. We have changed it so that we can put on a swimmer, and the swimmer takes, well, let's say 2 hours. practice. And then we put on the computer, and immediately the system can recognize when you were swimming front crawl, when you were swimming backstroke, when you were swimming breaststroke, and make that evaluation. And do you want to know how much that cost us? About 50 euros. That's the truth. That's the things are changing so much that nowadays wearables and technology is getting very, very interesting results. I just bought one of the system. I don't know if you remember the system that was monitoring power. I just bought it for my useful now in the lab, and it was about 200 euros. And that's 10% of the cost of the T4 system. I'm not going to tell you that it is just accurate as the T4s, but I'm quite sure that the difference is not 10% for 100%. I'm quite sure of that. And indeed, getting more inputs on this type of technology, you can get much more results. So regarding the wearable technologies that are now available, it depends what sport you want to use, because for making, for instance, many of the data on jump, I use my cell phone. I spend €0. I use my Excel. I put there the formulas, I use my cell phone, and that's it. And I can get a lot of reliable data, because if I make the 3 jumps, I can get not only the height and the power for each jump, but I can make the index regarding the coordination of both lower limbs and upper limbs. So we need to start looking at different technologies for each and specific sport, because they are coming along, that's for sure.
It's good, thank you, because you are doing a wonderful job along with your friends. Is what is called PULX?
Yes, PLUX.
PLX. Okay, Flux. Okay, Flux.
They have their website on English, so it's very easy to understand everything that they. And just one small comment. You are aware of the force plates, right? So the force plates that you put on the floor. We just bought one for our lab of 100,000 euros. Okay, so that's very expensive for a gym, for an athlete, for a club. That's 100,000 euros. That's a lot of money. But these guys in Portugal, we just made a force plate by 5,000 euros. And you're going to tell me, well, that's expensive. It is, but it's quite different from 100,000 to 5,000. And things are coming that way. So if you get people, engineers working with you, and many times engineers want people from sports, because we have very good ideas for them to develop their ideas, then I'm sure we can make very, very, very interesting results.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, thank you.
Bye.
Sir Vince, can you put it on a slideshow, sir?
A moment, sir.
Thank you. I would like as well to take this opportunity to thank our moderator, Dr. Anthony. Thank you so much for remarkable job that you have rendered with this international conference. So with this, the certificate of appreciation is awarded to Dr. Pedro Morocco for imparting his valuable insights and expertise as research speaker during the international webinar on sports biomechanics with the team applying biomechanics for the betterment of sports, organized by the International Association of Physical Education and Sports in collaboration with the International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education and Iron Games in World Strength Lifting Federation, given this 14th day of March 2021, Bangkok, Thailand, via Zoom platform. Signed by our country head and representative, Mr. Limuel Abellanida Jr., the president of the International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education and Iron Games, and the vice president for the World Strength Lifting Federation, Dr. Kaukab Azim, and yours truly, the president of the International Federation for Physical Education and Sports, Associate Professor Dr. Joelson M. Santos. The certificate of appreciation is awarded to Dr. Pedro Morocco. Thank you so much, Dr. Pedro.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you as well, Dr. Anthony, for the remarkable service that you are rendering to us. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, welcome. Thank you.
Sir Vince, let's continue. Thank you.
Okay, at this moment, let us hear Dr. Kishore Mukhopadhyay for his concluding remark for his concluding address, followed by vote of thanks of Mr. Anthony Tilapi. Sir.
Okay, in today's international conference on sports biomechanics organized by International Association of Physical Education and Sports in collaboration with International Federation of Physical Fitness, Health, Physical Education and Iron Games and World Strength Lifting Federation. In this conference, in the inaugural speech was given by Dr. Kutub Azim, President International Federation of Fitness, Health, Physical Education and Iron Games, and also Vice President World Strength Lifting Federation. Introductory address was given by Professor Darwin offering sports Director Sports Development Office, Laguna State Polytechnic University, and welcome address was given by Dr. Joelson M. Santos, President of International Association of Physical Education and Sports, and in the keynote address was given by Dr. Arun Kumar Uppal, ex-Vice Chancellor, Jivaji University. His keynote address he has given. In his keynote address, he has given the concept of biomechanics. That is, the biomechanics is the study of internal and external forces acted on the human body and their related responses. So this definition was given by James G. Hay, and he has mentioned the importance of biomechanics for the technique development, new equipment, injury prevention and treatment, all these things. And in the technical session, we have 3 resource persons. So before going to start one by one, I want to mention one thing, that the concept of biomechanics arises after the Second World War. During the Second World War, when the fighter planes are bombing and return to their respective nation for landing, most of the planes are crashes. What is the reason behind that? When the scientists are thinking about it, then the concept of biomechanics arise. And now it is very popular in the field of sports and games. And in the technical session, our first speaker was Professor Sudarshan Bhomik, and his presentation was related to biomechanical analysis. So far as biomechanical analysis is concerned, analysis means the separation of complex tasks, and biomechanical analysis is dependent upon 3 aspects. First one, application of force, or you can say the kinematic aspect, then kinematic aspect, then muscular movement, and the description of motion. So description of motion is important, then technological aspect is important, and the muscle involvement is important to analyze human sports performance. For quality analysis, we have 2 concepts he has mentioned, that is quality analysis and quantity analysis. Quality analysis is very much easier because it is observed by visually and by the coaches or the teachers. But in case of quantitative analysis, there are so many equipments are there, cinematographic methods are there, then camera, sensors, all these things are required for collecting the data from the performer. And he has described the kinematic and kinetic parameters and all the skills in 3 aspects. That is the preparatory aspect, then execution aspect, and finally the follow-through aspect. And with the videographic method, description, and kinograms can be easily developed, and with the help of that, the correction can be easily made. So academic point of view is very much important in case of sports biomechanics, and all the coaches must have some idea how the biomechanics plays an important role for promoting the sports performance of his or her athlete. In the second speaker, in our technical session, the second speaker was Dr. Vishwanathan Sundar, and his topic of deliberation was aspects and prospects of sports biomechanics, and he has delivered a very nice presentation over here, and he has mentioned the importance of camera technology, then the shoes, then the clothing, surface, infrastructure, all these things are playing together, and how in 2012 and 2016 Olympic, the difference is less than 1 second. So, and this is due to the development of biomechanics, and especially you can say the sports engineering also. And he has mentioned 4 parts of qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis. He has used, he told the application of markers, sensors, motion capture systems, with all these things, with the help of this software, that is Visual 3, the parameter kinograms can be easily developed, and with the help of this kinogram, the performance and the fault we can easily find, and we can easily able to correct the fault of our athlete. Then he has also mentioned the muscle stiffness tracker machine, thermal imaging machine. These are the new concept he has mentioned, how thermal imaging machine is there, and it is also related with nutritional aspects also, because in the long duration of activity, say for example in the lawn tennis, the muscle stiffness tracker and the thermal imaging gives us the accurate data, and with the help of this data we can easily feed our athlete during the competition. So during competition, the nutritional aspect is also dependent upon these technological innovations. And our last speaker today, the Dr. Pedro, biomechanics as a useful to post performance. He has delivered a very nice presentation over here, and these 3 aspects are essential for elevation of a performer in the competitive sports. And he has also mentioned that data can be collected from the laboratory test as well as the field test, and evaluation is based on the kinematics, kinetics, and EMG machine. And he has also mentioned the role of anthropometry for performance level of or selection of a particular games and sports. And he has also given a new direction in this area, that is the importance of somatotype. Which somatotype is beneficial for which type? With this, the 3 speakers are giving us the new insights and thoughts, and we are too much gaining knowledge from their deliberation, and I hope all the participants are gained over here. In my speech with the sincere gratitude and thanks to Wilson M. Santos and entire his team of International Association of Physical Education and Sports. Thank you, everybody. Over to Santos, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Kishore. Thank you so much. Sir Vince.
Thank you, Dr. Kishore. Let's now move on to vote of thanks to be given by Sir Mark. Sir Mark.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible now, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. So, in behalf of International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education in the Iron Games and the World Strength Lifting Federation, I, with the IEPS family, would like to recognize the commitment and hard work of the organizers and express our warmest thanks to the following people who made another notable accomplishment in this international conference on sports biomechanics with the theme Applying Biomechanics for the Betterment of Sports. To the President of International Federation for Fitness, Health, Physical Education, and Iron Games, and Vice President of World Strength Lifting Federation, Dr. Kokab Azim. Thank you, sir, for your cooperation and great contribution in this conference. To Professor Darwin Offrin, Sports Development Office of Laguna State Polytechnic University System, for your dedication, sir. Thank you so much. Of course, to our very own President of IEPS Associate Professor Dr. Joelson Santos, who is very approachable, committed, dedicated, and passionate in delivering excellency and sustainability to the field of physical education and sports. To the former Vice Chancellor of Jiwaji University, Gwalior and Head, Dean of Lakshmibai National Institute of Physical Education, Professor Dr. Arun Kumar Upal. Thank you so much for your humble contribution, sir, and commitment in this conference. Of course, this international conference on sports biomechanics would not be possible without sharing the expertise of our dear highly specialized speakers in which, despite of their busy schedules, they still give their precious time to be with us today, sharing thoughts and fruitful discussions, which are timely and relevant in our situations today. To Professor Sudarshan Bomik of Joshua University of Science and Technology, Department of PE and Sports Science, to Dr. Viswanath Sondor, Senior Biomechanist, National Institute of Sports Malaysia, founder of Sports Science Virtual Lab, and a certified biomechanics specialist, Nesta USA, to Dr. Pedro Morocco, Associate Professor of Polytechnic of Lira, Director of the Master Degree in Exercise Prescription and Health Promotion, 2017 Hans Gross Emerging Researcher Awardee, and 2020 Sports Science Awardee from the Portuguese Olympics Committee. So all of our dear speakers, thank you very, very much for sharing these fruitful discussions to all of us. Indeed, biomechanics is a useful tool to boost or improve our performances and identify the injuries with the help of technology. Using the biomechanics of sports and exercise, athletes can learn about their own movements and make the changes they need to improve performance and lower the risk of injury. So it's really a challenge for us, especially biomechanics researcher, to discover a new and more technology or more techniques. Of course, our warmest thanks to Dr. Kishore Mokapaday, Associate Professor in PE Union Christian Training College, Berhampur, for concluding address. And of course, our recognition to Dr. Vangis Anthony, a faculty member of King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals. Without you, sir, there's no beauty or good flow to our program today. And we would like also to acknowledge all of the participants there watching via Facebook and also the participants here in our Zoom.
Sir? Sir Mark?
I think there is a technical issue due to which reason Mark
Yes.
Anthony is unable to speak, or we are unable to audio, basically to listen him.
Sure, thank you.
So from my side, I congratulate
Thank
to
you,
all the
Professor Faisal.
speakers and specifically to Professor Dr. Jolson Santos and the whole organizing committee, specifically Dr. Kishore, Dr. Kokab Azim, who are the basically wonderful speaker of the world, Dr. Pedro, Dr. Sudarth, and there are many others well-renowned speakers of the world. They all basically describe biomechanics specialties according to their experience and research-based things in front of us. And I hope each and everyone have learned a lot from all these speakers. Thank you very much.
Okay, this concludes our webinar Thank you for attending and see you on the next event. This is Vince Rabang, your virtual MC.
Thank you, Sir Vince. So before we end, we are inviting everyone for the Physical Education Foundation of India upcoming activities. On December 17, National E-Conference on Trends and Practices of Physical Education in Yoga in Current Scenario. March 19, 2021, International E-Conference on Futuristic Trends of Yogic Practices in the Next Normal. March 23, National E-Conference on Direction of Physical Education and Sports in the Next Normal. And on March 25, 2021, International E-Conference on Doping in Sports. This is a collaboration with Physical Education Foundation of India, Union Christian Training College, and IAPS. So I hope to see you, everyone, on these upcoming activities. With that, thank you so much for attending this international conference on sports biomechanics. Thank you so much.
Good luck for all the other future-oriented events. Um, Dr. Darwin Orphan is also here.
Yeah, Doctor. Thank you,
How are
Doctor.
you, sir?
Thank you, Dr. Pedro. Thank you, Dr. Sundar, for the opportunity of having you. To Professor Faisal, thank you so much. I hope to see you on our upcoming April global workshop. I hope you
Yes, why
are
not? I
there.
will be. I'm
And
always
then
with you people. And Dr. Professor Darwin Orphan also here. I want to thanks him that he is doing a wonderful job through Lagna University, Polytechnic University, through the partnership of IAPES. It's in this way, basically, the awareness and the message is being spread to the whole world. And I'm also with you people. Professor Julson, your support